Welcome back, everyone, to the Upset Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Latasha Hewitt, but of course, you know I'm not alone, so I'm going to invite my fellow Upsetters on. What's up, everyone?
Hey, we
Hey,
here.
hey,
Howdy.
hey.
Hello,
Good to see you
everyone.
all.
Yep.
Yes,
I feel
yes.
like I'm in the Brady Bunch.
I know, right? It's always good to be back. I always enjoy the opportunities we have to just chat about any topic. And we're wrapping up Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've appreciated all of your commentary. We encourage you to continue to share with us your thoughts on the topics that we're presenting. But as we wrap up Mental Health Awareness Month, we have another topic that I find to be highly, highly important. And we've already admitted that we probably need this topic more than some of you listening to us. GP, go ahead and roll out what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it's an important topic, as Latasha mentioned, and it is boundaries and self-care. Boundaries and self-care. And Lord knows we all need this conversation because throughout this pandemic, we have been, running on overdrive. And even working virtually is more taxing than we often admit. And so I want to drop this and then begin the conversation with my friends here. So in real estate, a boundary is a property line that marks the personal property of an individual or a business and separates it from the property of anyone else. So in your own life, a boundary is a personal line that marks the yes side and the no side of your life. And so I want to open the floor. What do you guys think about that statement? How do you apply and marry boundaries to mental health, and how important is it?
That's a daily struggle. And I think for me, talking about yes and no, I believe I have some very firm no's. Like on one, if it was like a wall, like if it was a square, I think I have a nice firm L. Okay. But the other two lines, sometimes, they're not as quite as firm. And yeses sneak in there. There probably should be no's. And, sometimes you find yourself kind of out of sorts because you think you're firm in one regard, but then you realize you're letting too many of those yeses come in and you find yourself a little overwhelmed. At least that happens to me a lot.
I think lifestyle has a direct connection to boundaries. Whatever lifestyle you have established for yourself or which you have been encouraged to do will define your boundaries in many cases.
It's funny, but we have blurred and the lines that used to carefully demarcate our lives. Because, for example, somebody used to have to come up your driveway and knock on your door to get you, but now, shoot, they can see you even when you don't know they're looking. I mean, Siri will talk to your friends about you while you think your phone is on silent. And so we're living a life now with these hazy, blurred lines. Sing that for us, Pat.
I can't do that for you. But you know, Nick, I read a book some time ago. It was given from a pastor friend of mine. When I still think I struggle with self-care because of approval addiction. And I think that even though we say, I'm going to say no, or I'm not going to do that, it still takes a struggle, especially with the type of personalities and the type of A-type personalities that I think all of us around this table have or are close to it, that it's hard for us to let somebody else down. And therefore, it puts us in the category of a mental health issue like anxiety that we talked about before, because we're not doing what we have to do. So my struggle with self-care comes from the approval addiction side. Which is dangerous.
if I may speak, from my perspective, I think because I feel like I'm a servant leader. I have to do so much for my church, just to be there when there's so many lives that are hurting, and to be a good pastor, you need to be with your people. And then I have, the commitment that I have to be with my family first. They're my first church. So I feel like I'm running all over the place. And I keep hearing words in my ear, self-care. Remember, Marlene, it's self-care. So it is one area, as you were speaking, Latasha, I feel like I do good in certain areas and then some others I don't. And in the end, I'm the one that's beat up, right? And I'm getting at an age now where my body is saying, you can go if you want to, but I'm not going, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. We have to be in unity so that I can move, you know. So it is very challenging, and I think it's something that I have to continue to learn. Because, I mean, I do hear people, you know, young having strokes and aneurysms, you know, and things like that. And I know my lifestyle is, you know, highly potent with activity. So I have to be very mindful of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think ministry is very, very demanding. We all are in ministry in various capacities. And even after you, quote unquote, clock out, you can find yourself mentally working and praying and just thinking, what can I do to make things better? How can I do to be more efficient? But there are people who believe it or not, that self-care is selfish and anti-Christian. What do you guys think about that school of thought that shun self-care as self-serving?
I think that thought is flawed. We need to look at, you know, how the Lord handled self-care. I imagine Christ being quiet, soft-spoken, someone who was deliberate in how he used his time. I think that we come up with this illusion. We create this illusion in our heads that we have to be working and always thinking so we could have a sense of value. And to your point, Marlena, you know, the body was fearfully and wonderfully made. There are signals that your physical body gives you that reminds you that maybe you've gone over the line. And we don't listen. We keep going. How many of us have sat in meetings, live meetings or Zoom meetings, where some of the participants have fallen asleep?
More times than I care to mention.
Yeah, you want to see name?
Right.
You know, Chuck, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The other day, I think it was on Monday. You know, we always feel like on Mondays is where we come together and just get everything ready for the rest of the week, which I normally do. After I was done, I think it was the children's prayer thing. I said, I'm going to take a walk. I took a walk and I was in a park area and I felt guilty. I felt guilty, like I'm supposed to be doing something right now. Like I felt like I was neglecting something or somebody by taking a nice walk and just sitting down on a bench somewhere. I just said to myself, it's terrible when you did. I literally had to call a therapist and say, why do I feel this way? And we have to be able to take care of ourselves, because at the end of all of this, if any one of us lose our mental health or our lives based on not having self-care, they're going to replace us tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, what I have started doing, and it works most of the time, is that on my calendar, I have meetings all day, shoots that have to take place at certain times. Someone else will call you and say, hey, can you fit me in a thing? And, you know, would you be available? And I'm always trying to plug stuff in my calendar. And what I've started doing is scheduling me. So if someone says, oh, are you available at 2:00? And I say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm scheduled at 2.
Yeah, I'm seeing me.
And they say, you're scheduled. Now, I'm hoping that they never ask, oh, really? So what are you doing? You know, it's like I'm scheduled between 2 and 4. I will not be available till after 4. So on my calendar, that's me scheduled. In fact, for those of you who are techies, in the Google Calendar, you can actually schedule me time.
Really?
Wow.
What the calendar will do is you request me time, what you want to do, and what Google Calendar will do is find those spots on your calendar amongst all your other appointments and tag it as me time.
Nice.
So you can say to someone easily, you look at your calendar, you go, oh, you know what, 3:00, I got a meeting.
Hey, Charles, Charles, you know what's going to happen now. Whenever somebody calls you and you say,
yeah,
I'm busy at that time, they're going to say,
oh,
yeah, I know what he's doing. He's taking a nap. Sure enough.
That's all right.
Yeah.
You know,
But-
I noticed that, because GP sent out that article about Jesus. There were 3 specific times when I would ask Christ some questions. The one time is Matthew 12, where he is so absorbed that his mother and his brothers come to get him. And while he's speaking, they say, people in the crowd said, "Your mother and brothers are outside. They need to speak with you." And that's when Jesus did that thing. I'm an orphan. that was the one. That was that one time. The other time was he was teaching and preaching people, and then and here's the words in Mark chapter 4, and verse 36. It says, "They left the crowd behind, and they took Jesus just as he was." And he is just totally exhausted and totally absorbed. And the other time is when he's at the well with the woman. He's thirsty and he's hungry, and he gets so wrapped up that he did. Nobody ever realizes this, but he never got that drink of water from that woman, because she ends up leaving the bucket and running to go be an evangelist. And then when he came back and the disciples said, "Look, we got them sandwiches you sent us for," he said, I'm filled with the Spirit." And so I ask myself sometimes, did he stretch himself a little thin?
Perhaps so.
Yeah, I mean,
You find him
But
going
no,
to the
I wanna-
mountain
I wanna-
to pray.
yeah.
I want to ask a question about self-love. Go a little deeper with that. Is that selfishness?
I don't think so.
I don't think it
Self-love?
is. I don't think it is. I mean, we hear this analogy all the time about cars and how our bodies are like cars and they have to be refueled. I remember a time
I'm
when
a truck.
you need a lot. I remember after I left home and I had my own car, I was so horrible at getting oil changes.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, I could save that $50, do something else. And then eventually my car
Yeah, a little
Told you.
had
tapping,
a
a
lot
little
of
clicking.
issues
Yeah.
going on.
Hmm.
And the first question my dad asked me is, he said, "When's the last time you got an oil change?" I was like,
Have
yeah,
mercy.
that. So here I am thinking I'm saving by not getting this oil change. And then in the end, it caused even more damage to the vehicle, which
Yeah,
caused
yeah.
even more need for repair. And the car wasn't able to function the way it should. So when we think about self-care and self-love, it's putting into ourselves what we need to continue to do what we've been called to do. So really, you're not being selfish. You're actually giving yourself an opportunity to give more because you're taking care of your vessel that you feel that God is using to do things. So it's a reinvestment back into yourself. So you're actually helping others by helping yourself. That's how I see
That's
it.
good.
Right.
I just
And
have to
if I
tell
just-
myself that more.
If I could just add to what Tosh is saying, when the Bible says love others as you love yourself, we're not loving ourselves, we're just giving, then we're running on empty. We keep giving from a deplenished vessel.
Right.
And so we find ourselves, as Charles was saying, that body is going to let you know. So I always have my seniors looking out for me, like, "Marlene, Pastor, you're doing too much. You're going too much." I said, yeah. I hear you. I said, I'm going to slow it down. We say that, but in reality, we continue to do. And one time I felt my body shutting down, and I'm normally very energetic, full of, and so I don't know that my body is worn down, right? Because I just go. And so it's almost like I can fall asleep just like that. I feel good and I'm knocked out, right? And so I felt it one time and I was like, that's what the people were telling me to stop, because my body was shutting down. So if I love me, I have to love me in order to love you. So when people say it's selfish,
Yes.
how can it be selfish when I have to love others as I love myself? Because if I don't know how to love me, how can I really love you, right?
Yeah.
And so we can't give from a deplenished vessel. We have to be restored and renewed. That's why I said today, I'm just going to learn. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to learn. I'm going to feed from you guys, because these conversations Has always helped me. I remember last week I had to do a lot of running out of town, and someone extra called me and said, "Hey, can you take me, out of town?" I was like, I can't do that. I knew I couldn't do that. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. But guess what? They found another way, right?
Right.
And
That's
so,
right.
we can't feel guilty that
They
if
called
we
me.
say no. I'm glad you're my backup.
So now you know. Right?
But here's the part. Here's one of the biggest
go ahead.
problems, especially in ministry. It's how you came into ministry. It depends.
That's right. It's contextual.
If you come into ministry, like I came into ministry, Tally, on the back end of the old guards. So when I came into ministry, I was taking my senior pastor's car to the car wash.
Oh wow! Oh,
I was picking up dry cleaning. Okay, but I'm just saying.
You really came in under the old guard.
No,
Yes.
yeah. I came into the old guard.
Slavelandia.
Picking them up from the airport, all of that, and I'm married, 3 kids, doing this type of stuff. But when you come in like that, you automatically feel like your whole life is about serving people to the point where you're not even. Listen, I just learned how to eat ice cream.
Wow.
I mean, and sit back and just say, hey, I just need time for myself. And you're going to find people who are going to say this to you. People are going to say, well, you did that for me last week, or you did it for me the week before, or you did it for me this time, and make you feel guilty about what, the answer to this is get used to say no. That's
tag me in. No is a complete sentence, folks.
Yeah.
No is a complete sentence. So
Right.
I just had my beautiful princess. She's over there in the corner in her bassinet sleeping. 2 weeks old. I'm working virtually at the church that I'm serving at. And there's a ministerial expectation for me to be in the building while my wife is on bed rest. Cannot walk right now. Start PT in 2 weeks, Marlena. Like, I'm here helping every way I can. I said, can I do it virtually? No. Okay. I'll take a FMLA. All right. Now, what happens when you set boundaries, when you do what's best for your family, and that is weaponized, when your boundaries are weaponized against you? What do you do in that situation when your boundaries aren't respected and they're used against you?
Real quick, GP. And that's what I'm talking about. You have to set the boundaries early, right? I didn't set those boundaries early. So I went through ministry with your elders making you feel bad for not showing up, right? When really and truly, you don't set elders meetings. Elders set elders meetings and you come to their meetings, right? Right. So there's a whole lot of things that if you cut it out early, I'm talking about those who are ministry or early in ministry. If you cut it out early, people will respect you for what that is. I didn't do that. So it's halfway through ministry and where I am now, where you hurt your family, you hurt your kids. You're one day my daughter said to me as a kid, she said, Dad, you pray with people on the phone, but you don't pray with us. Now, and I'm not talking about family worship. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not talking family worship is one thing. And that's when the ball starts rolling and you kind of say to yourself, hold on, not only are you talking about self-care for you, I'm talking about ministry now. You got to be able to say no to certain things.
For your family.
That, look, we came up going to camp pitch because we thought it was a part, well, not you, GP, but Nick, we went to camp pitch knowing that it was something that you do when it really gets into your family time and it really gets into your you time for doing what, right? So really the key to it is self-care is something that I'm still learning how to do, because when you come into this work, you learn how to say, yes, I will, instead of turn around and say, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. I can't breathe.
But I think we have
go ahead, Tosh. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, with the whole boundaries thing, GP, I think that's one of those things we have to realize that most people aren't going to readily accept them. I mean, I think that's what we have to reconcile within ourselves. Just because I set these boundaries doesn't mean people are going to respect them, but that doesn't mean I should bend on them or fold on them, because ultimately, you know why that boundary was created. And if you back out on that, you'll always be chasing that boundary, and it's hard to get back. As Tat was saying, you'll be halfway into your ministry before you're like, I got to do it now. Where if you start early setting those boundaries, people know what to expect from you. So you really just have to stay firm.
And I'm just mad at myself that I didn't take FMLA before the situation. But now that I'm here at home, I didn't realize how taxing virtual work has been. I'm just like, oh my goodness, what have I been doing?
Virtual work has us working harder now than we have before. And I don't know, people don't understand it. Here's the other side to it, and you could take this as you want. The people who weren't working before are now using your work ethic to make it seem like they're working harder. So every time you turn around, you're in a meeting. If I had the time, I would show you. I got my Pathfinder uniform here. I got my Adventure uniform here. I got my Class A uniform here. I got a tie over here. They're all downstairs like I'm Superman. Right. And the thing is, I find myself, this is the hard part. Guys, hear me out on this. I find myself sitting in this seat, right, where I'm sitting right now for the majority of the day.
Yeah.
To the point where I don't even like preaching from here because I feel like I work from here.
Right.
You know, so there's so much that I even want to move the computer somewhere else just because it's just coming down on me. It's not good.
Well, you know, as you guys give these contextual examples, I can't help to think that we need to look at a broader range, that our culture and our society has given us this illusion for many decades that you are only as your worth is based on your productivity. Your worth is based on a credit score. Your worth is based on how much you have in the bank. And so we are encouraged by a system of illusion to be something we were never intended to be. You know, they did a recent study about, I'm not sure how they did this, but in a recent study, I believe it was in 2019, 2020, where is the happiest country in the world? And you know what came up as the happiest culture in the world? Country? Finland. And you know why? Because their culture puts the family and the person first.
That's right.
The work ethic second.
I think, Chuck, over there it's like 4 hours, I think they're work.
Only, in some of those provinces, they're only allowed to work 6 hours. It is illegal to work more than 6 hours, and it's illegal for your boss to contact you in off hours. In fact, they can be fined. So what they've done is, in their culture, they have put people first, families first. 6 hours, they say. Now, people say, oh my gosh, I couldn't possibly do my job in 6 hours. Well, then there's something wrong with your job.
That's right.
And there's something wrong with your system. And so that will work within the system of the church. I personally believe the church has become so mechanized, capitalistic, that we are following the trends of post-World War I and II ethics of work. And if we don't look at it from the broad scope, we will grind ourselves to dust. And you know what this country will say? Oh, he was a very nice guy. Nice woman. Very wonderful. Next.
Marlena was a good pastor.
I'm watching Chuck. The reason why I'm laughing is I'm watching him work himself in the lather, thinking about all the times that I've seen that light on in his office. 7:30 in the morning.
That's true.
Yes.
Drive by 8:30. It's still on. And I said, he is preaching to himself.
Absolutely. And you know what? In recent years, I have started to prioritize myself more.
Yeah.
And if we don't, or if we're not intentional about that, we will find ourselves wanting to do everything. And part of that's a personal psyche thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we feel like we got to be on top. We got to be popular. We got to be achieving. We got to do it right. We got to get high scores. We keep going and going and going. And we will find that illusion does not take us where God wants us to be.
Hold on one second.
One of the issues is if I can interject, and that is, a part of it is the temperament, the melancholy artistic temperament And Chuck, he's an artist. I mean, he uses technology, but he's an artist.
Musicians are like that.
Musicians are like that, and that is, they'll say, I need $5,000 to do this job, and the conference will say, we got 28 cents. And then Chuck will come out saying, I can't do this 28 cents. And then he'll be in there trying to make that 28 cents look like $5,000.
That's right.
Because he's an artist.
That's right.
And we have to, sometimes people have to pull us away from it and say, look, stop making perfect the enemy of good. You've done enough here. But the other thing is theological, and that is, it is funny. We miss it. And of all people we should know, Adam and Eve are created. The first lesson is God takes them away and says, do nothing.
That's right.
Because your value is not based on what you achieve, accomplish, or acquire. And every seventh day, I want you, and this is before man has sinned. Every seventh day, I want you to reorient yourself, to reset yourself, and remind yourself that your value is on what you be, not on what you do. And that is what Sabbath is supposed to do, restore in us a sense of my real value is not on what I've acquired or achieved or accomplished or failed.
Not what I'm wearing.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's based on who I am.
Wait a minute, and your age.
Right. And you know what?
I never talk about that anymore.
But and I've been presented with this many times, especially by family. Those of us that are accommodators are also enablers.
It's true.
There are people who will ask you, knowing that you're an accommodator, but they will go be so bold as to ask you. They'll even start the question with, I know you're busy.
Yes.
Can you? And because we're accommodators, we soak that up, we evaluate. Our feeling is to satisfy, to accommodate.
It's actually It's actually manipulation.
It actually is manipulation.
Yeah, it is.
And on the other side of that question, some of us will ask colleagues, family, and friends to do things that we don't want others to ask us to do.
Sure.
So we can be part of the problem. I know Pat has worked all day. I'm going to call Pat at 8:30. Pat's going to see the caller ID. Pat's going to pick up usually, and I appreciate that, Pat, because I know you're a busy man. Within 2 to 3 rings, he'll pick up, hey, boss, what's happening? What's going on? Well, what about if I call at 9 o'clock and you see it's me and you say, oh, that's Chuck. He can leave a message.
I'm sorry, Chuck. I feel bad because I always be like, Chuck, my phone's not working. Where are you? So I feel bad because I'm like, Chuck, can you do it tomorrow? Okay, Pat, what time? Anytime tomorrow. Okay. So I feel bad about that. But let me tell you, I want to put this out there.
Not bad enough to stop.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I'm guilty of that too, because Chuck, when it's come to technology, I'll just call for any reason at any time. But I want to say this. I think that what has helped me with anxiety, mental health, anxiety, is to say no more than once. The first no is not good enough for me. It doesn't do anything to me. I have to say no more than once. So once I say no the first time, I feel guilty. Once I say no the second time, I'm like, oh yeah, no is a complete sentence, GP. And when I say no the third time, I'm like, you get out of my face. Don't even ask me anymore, or whatever the case may be, because I want to take care of me. But feels good to do you. Right. And I think if we can get away from, and I'm preaching to the choir, and I'm also my toes are killing me. But the key is that you have to take care of yourself. We only got 24 hours in a day, and we're not sleeping the way we should sleep, which is also self-care, right?
Yes,
so if we're not doing that, and we're not eating right, and we're not exercising,
right.
I mean, where we gonna come down to?
It's a lifestyle issue. And let me just slip in one tip here that's worked for me. I get anxiety when I look at my calendar for the day. Got a meeting at 9, meeting at 10, a shooting session at 12, another meeting at 2, another meeting at 4, shooting session at 5. When I look at that, I start to get anxiety.
Yeah.
And you know what? Guess what? I decided that I'm in control. So when I start to feel that anxiety, I pick up the phone. I'm sorry, we can't do your 3 o'clock show.
Yep.
5 o'clock, I'm so sorry. Stuff came up. And you know what happens? Once I open up my calendar, anxiety goes down.
It has to.
Yes,
Telling you.
yes.
Do too much.
And I wanted to add this too, real quick, Tosh. I wanted to add this that after we're talking about this, it's very important to put it in action. It can't just be a discussion. We have to do it. And to our listeners, I mean, when you look at your own lives, you know your life is crazy too. We have to do it. There are a lot of young people dying from stress-induced diagnoses.
Absolutely.
And so, we push and push and push because we all think it's not going to happen to us. But it can. I mean, it really can. And like I said, I listen to when my body acts up, because I'm pretty healthy. So something's not right? Then I cut it out. But I need to do it on a regular basis, right? And even when you look, it's not just the physical, but also we're talking about mental health. You have increased irritability. You're walking around being all cantankerous, to the family, the children. And it's because we're tired. We're stressed out,
and so under pressure.
It's very, yes, it's very important for us to not just let this be a conversation, but we have to do this.
We have to be intentional. Yeah. I had a colleague years ago who wasn't in church. I did some media work for him. He was a commercial real estate person, worked sun up to sundown every day. And we were talking about a project, and he said, "Oh, Chuck," he says, "in the next couple of weeks, I'm not going to be available." I said, "Oh, you going on vacation?" He said, No, it's not a vacation. I take time off and I go to visit a monastery. In this monastery is everything that I am not used to doing. He says, I join those monks. We get up for prayer. We clean the monastery. We cook our own foods. We have a lot of quality time together. And I do that for 2 weeks. And I said, wait a minute, this guy is a high roller commercial real estate guy. He's a millionaire. And I'm saying, why do you do that? He says, it's survival. If I don't hit the brakes, if I don't go to a hard stop, I will burn out. And so I said, well, what kind of a daily life is that for you? He said, refreshing. There were no phones, no TVs. We talked, we worked, and we experienced nature for 2 solid weeks. And he says, when I come back, I'm like a brand new person. Now, I'm not suggesting we find a monastery to go, but the point is well made. Here's a person who could easily keep going, pedal to the metal. But even he says, I got to take care of me. And that's his way of dealing with it.
All right. And I know, as we're wrapping up, when we talk about how to do this, we all hear it. We're nodding like, yes, it's necessary. And I think Marlena brings up a good point that we can't just talk about it. We have to do it. But one of the things that I've found that has helped me in my boundary setting journey and self-care journey is to know what my priorities are. And so I would say to anyone who's trying to figure out what it looks like for you, make a list of those things right now that you want to prioritize. If family's at the top, if particular aspects of your job, I mean, obviously you can't totally put your job at the end of the list, but there's certain projects that get priority over other things. Identify what those things are. And as you create those priorities, it's easier for you to say no to the things that don't line up with those priorities that you set. I think we fall into that cycle where we don't really know what's important. So we say yes or no at a whim. So that would be my tip to everyone. Set your priorities. That will help guide those things that you say no and yes to.
You guys need to all know that this upset is going to be called the "Don't Call Me No More" upset.
We're going to make other people upset. Yep.
So here's my last.
Well, you know what? Now here, I just wanted to come in just to what Latasha said. That was great advice. And I'm sure some of our listeners will be saying, yeah, but I work for Amazon. I work for, and when I come in, I punch that clock. Those folk could care less about my self-care. They just want me stocking shelves or doing whatever it is I've been hired to do. So it makes it more difficult for individuals who have already been presented with a set of rules of work and time of day. However, you can rise above that because you're not working 24/7. In those times when you are off your shift, You need to prioritize yourself,
Exactly.
because my final word is no goose, no golden eggs.
Good point.
That's good. So my word of advice is it's okay to put your phone on do not disturb.
Yeah.
It's okay to be unavailable for a little while. Because
Amen.
honestly, folks, balance is not about better time management. It's about better boundary management. So that's my word of advice.
Thank you for this beautiful class, everybody. I appreciate it.
We're gonna have to come back and report on how well we're doing. We got,
Not me.
before we go, let's give ourselves a grade so we know how well we improve. If you could give yourself a grade on where you are in your self-care journey, what would it be? Very quickly.
On a scale of what?
Like A, B, C, D, E, F. I mean, not E.
I am a C minus,
C minus.
and that's an improvement. That's an improvement. I'm a C minus. I know it.
I would say I'm a B plus, because even before this topic came up, I was heading in that direction anywhere out of need, as a physical need and mental need. So I'd say I'm about a B minus. I still got a little ways to go, but I'm going to get there.
Okay.
And you know how you'll know? Because people say, I haven't heard from Chuck. It's really I don't know, is he okay? Is he around anymore?
What about you, Pat?
See, really, I see myself at a C, but I came up from a strong F. So so I see myself at a C right now, especially over this past week or so. I find myself at the park, just walking in Washington, D.C., just go to Annapolis, just walk along the water lines.
It's true.
I just started
and
doing
said,
things like,
Pat's homeless now? I said,
yeah, that's right. That was Listen,
Feeding the birds.
Boy, feeding pigeons, yeah.
and here's the funny thing. Seriously, I started to take the phone with me. I always felt like all my meetings had to be right here.
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm gonna take the phone with me. I could be in a meeting and just have them and just enjoy enjoy.
Good point.
I'm at a C right now, but when I get to an A, okay, we'll talk about
Patrick
that.
was a good man.
Yeah, you did.
Here we go back.
I knew him when.
I think I fluctuate, depending on what's going on. If there's something big, that needs to happen, I know I'm a D. And when I feel like I got things kind of getting a little bit better under control, I'm a C, because then I can take a little bit rest. So I know that I feel that I am the worst out of all of us. I know Tally's trying to take the credit, but I really feel like I am the worst. So when I saw the announcement of what we're going to talk about today, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen. I'm just going to listen because I need it. So I feel like I'm the poorest student, but what I was saying about being intentional, I'm really going to apply, because I want to be here, for my family, for my church. I really want to be here, and I don't want you guys getting bad phone calls about me. So lesson very, very much learned today.
Okay, see, indeed. What about you, GP?
I would say, because I'm on FMLA right now, I'm at a B plus, and I have a chance to reevaluate my priorities and to get things in place so that I can maintain my A mid-June when I reengage in ministry again.
Stay there and stay there.
Tell you what, you keep this up, boy, in the Allegheny, your A gonna be in trouble. If you get my drift.
Oh, mercy. And I would say I'm probably right at a C myself, but trying to climb. I think we all have a little room for improvement. So we'll check in next month and see how our self-care grades are doing.
That'll be good.
Yeah. And so all of you out there, if we're watching or viewing on Facebook or YouTube, put in the comments where you are. We're going to have some accountability for you too.
That's right. Absolutely.
And we can check in again with you later. Well, we're going to wrap up. We hope that you have not just heard what we have to say, but digesting what we have to say and plan to implement some of that. We always encourage you to engage with us. You can email us or in the chat. Our email address, upset@acsda.com. We'll be sharing some of your comments again in the near future. Continue to share this podcast with others. Got all kinds of arrows going on here. Continue to share this podcast with others. It's been great to hear from some of our faithful listeners and viewers, letting us know that you're watching weekly. We're always enjoy hearing from you. Continue to spread this, and we're on those podcast platforms, so download us, and subscribe and do all those wonderful things. All right, guys, this has been the Upset Podcast about self-care and boundaries. Go forth in peace.
Yeah, let's go take care of
Always.
ourselves.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
Take care.